Greetings, my fellow decrepit invalids and other sick people. I hope you're doing well today and that you're fighting the good fight. Well, today I wanted to pop on and just to share a little bit of encouragement to anyone out there who might be battling with a chronic illness. If you have not met me before, my name is Ryan, and I personally have been battling with chronic fatigue syndrome for a little over 2 years now. I went from being perfectly healthy to now having my life turned completely upside down by a chronic illness that came out of nowhere. And recently, I have taken a bit of a downward churn. I'm hoping that I'm in the process of bouncing back right now. That is my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. But I wanted to just come on and make a quick video talking to anyone out there who might be struggling with a chronic illness. I want to encourage you simply with a few words that I hope will uplift your spirit. So let me start here. I know that when you are battling with a chronic illness, it can be very discouraging. I know that a lot of days can feel fairly hopeless, and you can wonder whether or not you're ever going to get your life back. The hobbies you used to enjoy, the things that you used to do with family and friends, you might not be able to do anymore. You might not be able to work in the same capacity, if at all, like you used to. And life in general just doesn't look the same. It's not what you're used to. And I know that a lot of times in this space, it can be very easy to feel discouraged by all those things. I know for myself personally, I may not look it now, but I used to be a very avid runner, and I loved to go out and run several times a week, get the fresh air, get a good sweat in. That was one of my top hobbies, was running, and I have now not gone on a true run in probably 2 years. There have been moments where I've done a slight jog for maybe a minute or two, but my body just can't handle it anymore. And so I understand where you're coming from. If you're in a position where there are things that you used to enjoy in life that you have not been able to partake in, and that can be very discouraging, especially if some of those things are very core to your personality, to who you are. Again, for me, like running was something I did all the time. If I was able to, I'd go for a run every single day when I was healthy. It was very much a part of my life. And for many of you, there may be something that you have done for years and years that maybe you can't do anymore. Maybe you're a painter and now you struggle to paint because of there's pain in your arms and hands. Maybe you used to do a lot of hiking and now you're in a position where just hiking up the stairs will wear you out. Or maybe you're in a position where you used to be a social butterfly and you just like to be out and talking with people, and now the stimulant of social interaction is now too much for your nervous system to handle. There's so many ways that chronic illness can affect and change our lives, and it is so much more than just physical symptoms. It truly affects every aspect of your life. But what I want to encourage you with today is that even though chronic illness has taken pieces of your life, I want you to look for and search for places in your life where chronic illness has made you stronger. Look for areas where chronic illness has taught you valuable lessons, and think about some of the new things that you're able to do now because of your chronic illness. One example I want to throw out there is, before my illness, I was the primary income in my household, and I was working a lot, and I enjoyed that. But now I am unable to do that. But when I was working all the time, I didn't have a lot of time to spend at home with my kids and my family. Now I'm in a position where, because of my health, I'm at home all the time. I get to spend a lot of time with my kids, and that's something that's very exciting and very cool for me to be able to do and enjoy that. I've also enjoyed stepping out of my comfort zone and hopping onto YouTube and trying to encourage people along the way. And it's been a great experience for me to give me something to work towards despite my illness, but also to kind of slowly build this community of other sick people who are just trying to make it. They're just trying to push on one more day. And there's certain things with that I never would have been able to enjoy or experience if I hadn't been chronically ill. I'm also a Bible believing man, and I have seen my faith grow in so many ways. And there's just certain aspects of my life that I wouldn't trade away. I would never ask for this illness, But at the same time, I wouldn't want to trade the lessons that I've learned and gained by going through it. And so, my encouragement to you is that if you are battling through a chronic illness, whether it's been a year or 30 years, my encouragement is to try and find those little pieces of joy and hope that you have gained along the way. Because everything in life happens for a reason, at least that's what I believe. And I think that there is something for us to learn in every circumstance that we are in. I don't want you to suffer without hope or without purpose, because I think that's where a chronic illness over time can really start to wear you down. When you start to think, why am I going through this? What's the point of it all? And is there a light at the end of the tunnel? There's so many questions that start going through your mind when you've been sick for so long. Questions about what the future is going to look like. Am I ever going to be able to do this again? Am I going to be able to work a regular job again? There's all kinds of questions that go through your mind regarding your chronic illness. But I encourage you to not let those questions or those concerns define you. They're just a piece of the puzzle, but they're not the main focus. The main focus is still just trying to live life and to enjoy time with family and friends, and to get out there and try to do the things that you want to do to the best of your ability. There's so much out there still to explore and to experience. And I think sometimes we get into this rut with our chronic illness where we start to feel like, there's just certain things I can't do anymore. I'm never going to be able to experience this again. For example, for myself, last summer I went and I saw a movie in the theaters, which I hadn't done since before COVID. And I was excited to go see it. It was a rerun of Lord of the Rings, which is my favorite movie of all time. Went in to go see it, and the loud noises and the stimulant of being in the movie theater was too much for my body and my nervous system. I started just like sweating, and I was nauseous and twitching and shaking just from watching a movie in a theater. And so I'm sitting here going, am I ever going to be able to, experience a movie theater again? But I think with a chronic illness, you have to learn to adapt a little bit. And you have to recognize that, maybe going to a theater isn't going to be something I can do, at least not for a while, but I can still watch movies. And I recognize that maybe not every problem that you're facing is quite that easy to solve, but I think there's always a workaround. There's always a way to try and incorporate what you love in a different capacity. Again, for example, I love running. I physically can't do it right now, but I can go for a walk. It's not the same. It'll never replace my love for running, but it gives me a little bit of fresh air and a little bit of cardio. So it's kind of scratching that same itch. And so I think a lot of times in your illness, you just need to learn to adapt. You need to learn to push forward and to find workarounds. You have to find ways to keep living life, because the answer is not being cooped up in your house all by yourself. And that's something I'm guilty of at times. That's just me being honest. That there are times where, because going out and doing things can be so taxing on my body, it's very difficult to find that balance of trying to pace yourself while also trying to live and experience life a little bit and not let your illness hold you back. So that there is a fine line there. I'm not going to sugarcoat that fact. But I think that we still need to try and find ways to live life, still do things with our friends, still go to family get-togethers, still from time to time, if we're able to, go out for a meal. Just find ways that we can continue to live life. Chronic illness is a very unfortunate circumstance to be living in, and unfortunately that number seems to be growing more and more in the Western world. It's something that we need to learn to tackle. There's so many issues in the world and so many problems that we're all trying to work through. But I think chronic disease is something that should be at the forefront of our focus in terms of trying to get sick people well again. In America, we have an epidemic of sick people. That's one of the goals on this channel for me, is I'm trying to, I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who got sick. The doctors don't know what to do, and so I'm kind of forced into this position where if the doctors aren't going to figure it out, then I got to figure it out. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I think there's a lot of people in that position where the doctors, and I'm not trying to bash doctors at all. Please don't hear that. I think doctors work a very fantastic and essential job, and I think they are trying to do their best in the system that we've created. With that in mind, though, I think there are too many doctors who, whether they don't have time or they don't have the knowledge, they just prescribe a pill to cover up the symptoms. And I think as a result, we have a society that is addicted to pills, addicted to drugs. And because of that, no one's getting healthy. And so that's where I think the responsibility has to fall back onto you and I. And we have to recognize that we can't just sit around and keep waiting for someone to figure out what's going to solve our health issues. There's not some magic pill that's going to fix us. We have to be proactive and keep searching for answers. And that's probably the last encouragement I want to leave you with, is that when you are battling with a chronic illness, you have to be proactive, and you have to continue searching for answers. I'm only 2 years into this. For some people, they've been chronically ill for decades. And I would encourage you, if that's you, if you're in that boat of a much more long-term chronic illness, and who knows, that could be me someday. I hope and I pray that's not the case. I'm going to keep fighting, though, every single day that I'm sick, to try and find answers, to try new treatments, to keep trying to learn more about my body and figure out how I can take steps in the right direction. I'm not in a perfect place whatsoever. I just had a pretty bad little dip here recently. But overall, I think I am learning to take better care of my illness and to figure out how to manage it so that I can get pieces of my life back. And I think that needs to be our mindset. If you are in a place right now where you feel in a rut, or if you feel stuck and discouraged, like there's no point in trying, and you're just going to kind of accept the status quo, I would encourage you not to accept the status quo. I recognize that a lot of people, and I think there's some truth to this. There's a lot of people that say when you're chronically ill, there is an element of acceptance, of recognizing that this is the normal for the time being. And I think we need to do that to an extent. At the same time, I think we have to keep pushing forward and trying to find a way through. There are so many miraculous stories of people overcoming their chronic illness and finding ways to get healthy again. And I'm not saying that you need to force it, because I think that there are certain conditions where trying to force it can have a detrimental effect on your nervous system, and in some cases even set you back. So you have to be mindful of your chronic illness, and that you can't just bulldoze your way through your illness and get better. I wish that was the case. If that was the case, I think I'd be healthy by now. But what I am saying is that you can't give up, and that you have to keep trying, you have to keep searching, and you have to keep looking for answers. The human body is a miraculous piece of machinery. I think in general, it does know how to heal itself when given the right circumstances. And I think that we just have to continue striving to find those circumstances that are going to allow our body to heal and to recover. And so, my friend, whatever it is you're battling with right now, whether it's chronic fatigue syndrome or Lyme disease or any other illness, there's hundreds of illnesses you could be dealing with, whatever it is, I encourage you just to keep fighting and to keep pushing forward. Please take this fight one day at a time. You can't worry about tomorrow, and there's only so much you can do in the moment. But take it one day at a time. Keep fighting. If you need support, this community is here for you. Fitness with an Illness is meant to be a community of sick people coming alongside one another, trying to collectively work towards better health. And so if you need that encouragement, I would love for you to join this community and be a part of this movement that we're trying to create. Thank you so much, my friends. I hope that this was an encouragement to you. Please take care of yourselves. God bless you, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.